Good morning, everyone. On behalf of Asian Markets, I welcome you all to the 2Q FY17 earnings conference call of Cera Sanitaryware Limited. We have with us today Mr. Bharat Modi, Strategic Advisor representing the company. I request Mr. Bharat Bhai to take us through the quarterly results highlights, and then we shall begin the Q&A session. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Kamlesh Bhai. I'm Bharat Modi, Strategic Advisor to the company. I welcome everyone who have joined this call. But before we begin, I would just read out a disclaimer, which is as follows. Certain statements in the release concerning our future growth prospects are forward-looking statements within the meaning of the applicable security laws and the regulations. These statements involve a number of the risks and uncertainties beyond the control of the company that could cause actual results to differ materially from those appearing in such forward-looking statements. The risk and the uncertainties relating to these statements include, but are not limited to, risk and uncertainties regarding fluctuations in earnings, our ability to manage growth, intense competitions, including those factors which may affect our cost advantages, wage increase, our ability to attract and retain highly qualified and skilled professionals, political instabilities, managerial limitations, and legal restrictions of acquiring companies outside India, and unauthorized use of our intellectual property and the brand, and the general economic conditions affecting our industry. Cera Sanitaryware Limited may from time to time make additional written and oral forward-looking statements, including our reports to the shareholders. The company does not undertake to update any forward-looking statement that may be made from time to time by or on behalf of the company as a sequel to or in continuation of these statements. The company also expects the media to have access to all the parts of this release and management's commentaries and opinions thereon, based on which the media may wish to comment and or report on the same. Such comments and or reporting may be made only after taking due clearance and approval from company's authorized personnel. The company does not take any responsibility for any interpretation, views, commentaries, reports which may be published or expressed by any media agency without prior authorization of the company's authorized personnel. I would try to give the glimpses of the performance that we have. Let me say we have been consistent performers, and our performance has been built on many strands. The top line we achieved for Q2 is 260 crores for 98 lakhs. This is a growth on a quarter-to-quarter, on a year-to-year basis, about 2.5%. The results of Q2, if I just say the EBITDA margin has gone to 43.69 crores, which is 16.74%. The net profit is 25.14 crores. There's a growth of about 40.60% when you compare with the same quarter of the previous year. I would now straight away suggest to come on the questions from the participants, and I would try to answer them to the best of our information. We can begin the questions, and we could start on that.
So, thank you very much. We will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on their touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to only use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. Participants who wish to ask questions may press star and 1. Right, we have the first question from the line of Kaushal Bothra from CRISIL. Please go ahead.
Good morning, sir. Hello.
Good morning. Good morning, Kaushal.
Yeah, first of all, congratulations for the decent set of numbers. Sir, wanted to understand for the sanitaryware growth, have you taken any price hike in this quarter, or it is a factor of premiumization?
No, he's not taken any price hike. He's got effect of a premiumization and a better mix.
Okay. And also, sir, how has been the festive season? Do you see any uptick on account of festive sales?
Well, if you really see, the growth that we have registered is close to about 2.5%, which again is in line with Q1 of FY17 as such, if you see it. So the festival season has not as yet opened up, which has come to the books until Q2.
Okay. And sir, how has been the regional pickup in sales?
Which has been stable and steady on that part. Overall business is still subdued. We Honestly, Cera is not used to really a growth of only 2.5%. We have a CAGR which probably exceeds 30%. But purely because of the market dynamics and the industry, which has been quite subdued for over a year and a half for last so many months, and that trend still continues. And therefore, the growth of over 12.5%, that's pretty the moderate growth that we have been able to do it.
Okay. And sir, any outlook on faucetware, sir? Last question.
Faucetware is, contributing to business about 21%, and they should really go up to at least 25% in the time to come.
Okay, sir. That's it from my side. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Nehal Shah of ICICI Securities. Please go ahead.
Bharat bhai, good morning and congratulations.
Very good morning, Nehal. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and congratulations for good set of numbers.
Thank you.
Sir, 2-3 questions. One is regards to fuel cost. Now that is obviously going down, but that's going down in a hurry. So the fuel cost for the first half of this fiscal has gone down by almost 45%. So what's your take on fuel cost going forward? Is the trend likely to continue?
Well, he's basically stabilizing. He's not going to go down further. But there are two ways, we look at it. One is, we have an administered price mechanism for a gas that we get from GAIL. And there is a reduction of about 10% plus on what they used to bill us.
Right.
You see, the current rate that, they bill us is about 9.42 rupees a cubic meter as against 11.5 earlier. So there has been a reduction on that part, which already has come to the books of accounts because we have a reasonable savings in our energy costs and more so on a gas.
So the APM impact has already come in?
It has come down, yes. And so also the Sabarmati gas, which is, the normal market rate also has been steady and it is maintaining around 26 rupees a cubic meter. And we hope that, that trend should continue as such. But, if you really see, that's going to go further down, well, only the commodity price index would really tell us about this rather than we preempt anything on this.
Right. Great. And, sir, as regards Anjani Tiles, obviously we have not incorporated consolidated numbers. But can you throw some light on what is shaping up there? What is the kind of utilization, margins are we likely to get, say, probably at the end of the year?
Oh, sure. We started from Q1 of these FY17 only.
Yeah.
And the Q1 was, we are trying to stabilize about it. In Q2, we started using the capacity at about 90%. In fact, there has been a subdued market overall, and therefore, the offtake that we are going to do is only about 80%, 75 to 80%, which means in turn, there is a slight pile-up on an inventory on a tiles from the Anjani tiles that we have been trying to cater to the market needs in the southern part. But then this is a temporary phenomenon, as we all would agree to that part, because the moment, there is a momentum which probably would set right in a time to come, which we all hope to be so. Utilization of 100% capacity is not a big deal for such a strong distribution network that we have.
Right.
Number one. And the EBITDA margin, is almost into double digit now as far as Anjani is concerned.
Okay.
And with, we are also trying to change a product mix where we would be premiumizing and going for a GVT as well as double charge.
So currently it's 100% soluble salt?
Almost. You could say about 90% is soluble salt. But then in a time to come, as we stabilize the market, but in a soluble salt also, we have a slight advantage there, because we kind of a raw material that we get, which has improved our quality parameters, and the whiteness that you get on a soluble salt tiles compared to the competition is quite superior. And therefore, even in a soluble salt also, we get a reasonably good price.
Okay. And so what is the debt on Anjani's books?
Anjani, basically is 50-50. That's the way we had structured that part.
Right.
The project cost is about 68 crores that we had, and we had about 34 crores that we had pumped in as our equity. And now we have also, modernized or upgraded the technology to take care of the GBT as well as double charge. We have pumped in another about 10 crores between the promoters. We have contributed about 51% thereof. So slightly, in terms of the composition, the equity has gone more than the debt.
Okay, so roughly your equity is around 44 crore versus debt of 34 crore.
That's the way you could take it, yes, largely.
Okay. And so my last question is your recent announcement which has come in on the packaging company. Can you throw some light on what is the Packard all about? What is the model? What was the...
Basically, it's one of our suppliers and used to buy a lot of packaging material from them. But then he used to supply other people as well.
Okay.
So we thought that, it would be very worthwhile if we get into some arrangements where we could really, fill up the entire capacity at a pre-agreed price, like, the transfer price mechanism that we generally have with Anjani. So we made it a subsidy, but it's a very small project, less than about 3.5 crores. And the model is, again, 51% stake that we have, but that gives us a lot of flexibility in terms of controlling the product mix that they manufacture. And they'll have a priority that they would be really giving it to us. So which would mean that, in our books, we don't carry large inventory of a packaging material, which is almost adjoining in that unit, which hardly about 3 kilometers from where we are located at the moment. So we just have, a concept of a just-in-time kind of an inventory. We are able to practice that part.
So basically just about efficiency
exactly
in operations.
Exactly. And, with no investments, almost zero investment on an inventory, you could say that part for a packaging material.
Great. And so the last question is, can you give us the product mix for the first half and the growth in each individual categories?
Yeah, I can give you that part. But then overall, the trend has remained very stable about this. If I really give, 60-61% is still coming from the sanitaryware.
Okay.
Which again was earlier, if I say Q1 was again about 61-62% only. And 12% remains, out of that is allied product, which is going with the sanitaryware like PVC cisterns and the seat covers.
Right.
Which leaves about 48-49% for pure sanitaryware. Faucet again has exactly same percent or 21%. And tiles also has about 15%. So there is no change major in terms of the product mix that we had. And if I really see the growth that it has happened, the growth in sanitaryware in terms of value and volume put together is about 8%.
Okay. In
faucet, we have about 12% growth. And in tiles, we have close to about 37% growth.
27%.
37%.
37%.
Yeah, but it's a low base, and therefore, when you take a weighted average, you end up with about 12.5% overall growth, which was in a Q1 about 11.65% growth. So we have slightly improved in terms of our growth for a Q2.
Okay, so these numbers are for the second quarter.
It's quarter 2, yes.
Okay. Fine, sir.
But if you really see, if you see, our EBITDA margin has gone as against 12.5% growth. EBITDA margin has gone to 33.60% on an upward. And if you really see, our net profit has gone by 40.60%.
Right.
That means, the realizations that we are getting has improved.
Sure.
Though the volume in terms of, if you really see, we have been steady at about 8% growth or about same 12% growth in terms of faucet as well as sanitaryware.
Right. Fine, sir. Thanks a lot for the...
My pleasure. Thank you. You're welcome.
Yeah, bye.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Anshuman Atri of Haitong Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity and congratulations on the results. So my question is regarding demand side. So are we seeing any uptick from the government orders? And if yes, in which all regions?
You see, honestly, we do not cater to the government contracts directly. The reason being, government has a very set procedure where they have approved contractors. And they deal only through the approved contractors. But as far as the product recognition is concerned, yes, we are approved by every state governments. Which would mean that, whenever government floats a tender through the contractors who are registered on their panel, they could really, buy a Cera product and can always deliver it to the government. But directly, government does not buy from us. And therefore, we would not know that.
Okay. And secondly, in terms of the tile...
But to answer your question again, there have been a lot of movements in railways. There are a lot of movements in other government, these things where, the sanitaryware and Cera is is really getting a lot of recognitions and acceptability.
Okay, sir. The second question is regarding the tile business. So as we are upgrading the product, how much of realization improvement and margins improvement can we expect going forward?
Well, it's still a very, very first year where we are into a joint venture model, and therefore I could only say that, okay, we are in a double-digit EBITDA margin there.
And with GBT, what do you expect it to be?
Well, GBT, when it comes and takes a sizable portion, which probably might take about a year and a half down the line, by the time we stabilize that, this percentage would definitely improve.
Okay.
The question is that, okay, the market dynamics has to support this. Today, the market dynamics are not very favorable for the entire building material industry.
True. And lastly, in terms of tiles, are we seeing reduced pressure from imports, or is it?
Well, there was an anti-dumping duty which has come to an end on 30th of September. But then even if you really take an anti-dumping duty, because of the commodity price which has already slipped down, the advantage that, we all tile manufacturer had was reduced sizably because the freight cost from China had also gone down.
Okay.
So therefore, the tiles and the competitions from the overseas, which will have to really follow the new policy guidelines if government comes out with it.
Okay. Thank you, sir, for answering my question.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have the next question from the line of Dhaval Mehta of MK Global. Please go ahead.
Yeah, morning, sir. So congrats on...
Good morning, Dhaval.
Yeah, good morning, sir. So congrats on an excellent set of numbers, sir. Sir, my first question is on demand, sir. Sir, is it the right thing to say that sequentially we have seen demand on a downtrend? I will tell you where I'm coming from. So basically in Q1, we did a growth of around 12%, albeit on a higher base, while even in this quarter we have clocked around 12%, though the base was quite favorable. So is this the right thing to say that the demand sequentially has been a bit, has basically lowered?
No, I would not agree to that. In fact, for Q1, if you compare Q1 of FY17 and Q1 of FY16, we had grown with about 11.65%. And if you really say Q2, for both the years, we have grown by 12.5%. So there has been an upbeat on that, but not as much as that we would have liked that to be.
Okay. And are we seeing any regional trend in terms of demand, sir? Like any particular pockets of country doing quite well or really facing stress?
Well, generally, the southern business, we used to have a fairly good business, but that remains subdued, excepting Andhra Pradesh.
Okay.
When you really talk about Maharashtra, these also has been subdued about this. Okay. But if you really talk, let's say going to the UP and the north, these has picked up a little bit more. Gujarat has been stable, Rajasthan and Punjab has been stable on this.
Okay. So my next question is on faucets. So earlier our run rate should be in high teens or 20% plus kind of a growth in faucets. But now we are seeing a growth in lower double digits. So have the base pickup or the competitive intensity has increased manifold?
No, as a matter of fact, the entire market is subdued. And therefore, even if you really compare the figures which probably may be published or may be published in time to come, the growth for all players in the industry has been more or less stagnant to about 8 to 10%, which earlier used to be far more on a growth. And therefore, overall percentage, when we thought also that okay, we should have crossed about 15% growth on a faucet, but then there was market dynamics which were sort of a headwind coming into that part, was not able to grow as much as we would have liked that to.
Okay. So what will be our market share in the faucets category?
Sorry, market share is hardly about 2%, 2.5% as of now. Market leader still is Jaguar. I would very candidly admit, 1 to 8, 1 to 10 is Jaguar. Anybody who starts is always starting from 11, 12, 13, 14.
So is even Jaguar growing at the same pace or even it has slowed down?
Well, you would know that better because you do not have an access to those kind of figures because they are not a listed company as such.
Right.
But then what we hear from the market is that, okay, the growth also has been more or less about the same thing, about 10-12%.
Okay. So my last question is on margins, sir. So we have seen a margin in the range of 16.5 to 17% from last few quarters, benefiting by the lower input as well as the lower fuel cost. So once the tile business, especially in the tile business, starts full fledged, will this kind of margin will be sustainable?
There are two ways I would answer this. The EBITDA margin would purely become applicable to the material that we manufacture.
Okay.
EBITDA will not be applicable where we are outsourcing.
Okay.
And therefore, when you compare EBITDA, I think you should always try to compare what we are manufacturing. We are only manufacturing faucets as well as sanitary ware.
Right.
Tiles, that's a business we are more or less on an outsourcing model. Right. Outsourcing is two ways. One is straightway outsourcing without any kind of a commitment. Another is an outsourcing where we have a JV model.
Right.
Which is a transfer price mechanism. EBITDA does not affect wherever we have a tiles business.
Okay.
So sustainability of the EBITDA margin that you've been talking, is not related to the tiles at all.
Right.
And therefore, we should be able to sustain or even further improvise that further, because these are manufacturing process parameters, and improvisation on that with the product mix that we have been able to do it on a premiumization would help us to do so.
Mm-hmm. Okay, sir. Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thanks a very lot, and all the very best.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. We have the next question from the line of Achal Lohade of JM Financial. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity, sir. Couple of questions. One, if you could talk about the growth for the second quarter, because you talked about the first half, I believe.
Yeah, growth for the second quarter, as I said, is about 12%, 12.5%.
Sorry, segment-wise, I wanted, sir.
Segment-wise growth, as I said, I did give that figure also, but then I can give you further about this. I'm giving a figure for the Q2 only.
Okay.
Sanitary is about 8%.
Okay.
And we have a growth about 11.60, 12% is on the faucets.
Okay.
And we have about 37-38% growth coming from tiles.
And in terms of the revenue mix?
In terms of the revenue mix, as I said, 60% is coming from the entire sanitaryware block.
Right.
And if I really take off, the allied product out of that block, which comprises of the PVC systems, seat covers, etc., which go essentially with the sanitaryware, which contributes about 12%. 48-49% is coming from pure sanitaryware.
Right.
We have faucet, which is contributing about 21% business.
Okay.
And we have about 15% business coming from tiles, and the balance 3% is coming from a wellness range of a product.
Understood. If you could talk a little bit about the capacity utilization, where are we in the CAPEX plan?
Capacity utilization on a sanitaryware is almost 98-99%.
Okay.
And as we are talking, on a faucets, we are using about 60 to 62% capacity utilization.
Okay. So what is the plan on the sanitaryware CAPEX front, sir, given the utilization?
We are already gearing up ourselves to increase further capacity and make it from 3 million to 3.2, 3.3 million, which is about 10% rise on the current capacity.
Okay.
We are only waiting for the market to really take off that part.
Right.
And we probably at a stage where, once we have a feelers of the market being taken off, we can really achieve those capacities in about another 3 to 4 months.
Okay, so the lead time is about 3 to 4 months, you mean?
No, we are already committed, and therefore this has been a process which has already been initiated about a year before.
Okay.
Generally it takes about 15 months, so we have already made a lot of headway on that part. But we are a bit slow on this because the market is also slow, and therefore we are not really hurrying it up.
Right.
But we are committed to that part.
Understood. In terms of the demand improvement, you think there is slightly pickup, not material as of now. What do you think, what could drive the pickup in your view? Would the monsoon or the 7th pay commission, all these would be the drivers, or you would look at any other driver as well?
Your question, I'll have part 1 and part 2. One is, what would, currently the market is fairly subdued.
Right.
And you don't see those kind of an improvement accepting a moderate improvement of over 10, 15, 12%, which we have been doing anyway. We've been registering that part, which you can see from our results as well. Now, in terms of the growth drivers, if you really say it, yes, definitely good monsoon is one of the major growth drivers. And we have a good monsoon this time. Almost about 90%, 88% monsoon has been there. So this should really give us a good fillip on that part, number one. Number two, there have been some pockets where this kind of a movement has started, but then it has still not come to us. But we do see movements. But there is one thing, which we need to really accept is that there is a sizable amount of unsold inventory which is existing. So these has to settle first, which may take about another 6 months to 1 year down the line before the market really picks up.
Right. Unsold inventory of the real estate property.
That's right. Therefore, the new projects which are, have been very subduedly coming, is not very ambitiously coming to that part. So you need to wait till all the unsold inventories really settles and they have an actual user or the buyers who need-based buyer rather than only the investors.
Right. And just last question in terms of the gross margins. Would you say that these margins in terms of because of the lower raw material cost or the fuel cost would sustain at the current level, or are you seeing any pricing pressure?
There are three ways I would answer. One is, it's sustainable because, number one, the cost has been managed very well at Cera.
Okay.
Number two, we have always changed our product mix, which has a better realization, which would mean that, we are going more for a premiumization of the product.
Right.
And the third thing, the price of energy or power, including the energy, which is continuing to be stable around where we are. So our efforts to control costs and having a better realizations with the product mix change towards the premiumizations would allow us to sustain the margin.
Great. And just last question, on the sales growth, what would be the guidance you would probably look at for FY17?
Our chairman on a public platform on a TV interview, he said that, we should be registering a growth about 15%. We hope that, we should be closing the year with about 15% growth. But, with the market, these all subject to the market dynamics. So conservatively, even if you take it, even if you sustain about 12.5% to a 15% growth, that's the way we look forward to.
Understood, sir. Thank you so much. I'll come back in the queue, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have the next question from the line of Gunjan Priyatyani of JP Morgan. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi, sir. Thanks for taking my questions. Just two clarifications I needed from your side. Firstly, you mentioned this anti-dumping duty is expired. Is this something which the industry is taking up again, or what is the thought process? Does this get extended, or we'll still wait for it to come up again?
Well, we would not know about it. Representations have been made to the government about it, and the government has to take a call.
Okay, so it was only for a period of 6 months, is it?
Well, generally, it comes, it gets renewed once, you stabilize, A lot of people would say, look, we need initial time to really settle on this by the time we can face a competition. But honestly, personally, what I feel is, you cannot really do a business based on government policies and anti-dumping duty alone. You should have your own strengths. And that strength everyone has to develop, if not now, maybe in a time to come. So government would give another 6 months that probably should be used in such a way where every manufacturer develops inherent strengths. So our focus is on developing inherent strengths rather than depending on the anti-dumping duty to help us every time.
Sure. Okay, and second question I wanted to check with you is the growth numbers that you share are the value growth. Is the volume growth materially different from this, or?
No, it's the same thing. It's a volume and volume put together. The reason being, it does not really give any kind of an indications when I say, if we start manufacturing more premiumized items, which are, in terms of a volume, they are larger items. then
no,
the number
what
would
I'm trying
go.
to gauge
the number would go down.
Okay, no, what I'm trying to gauge is basically is it that the mid-end market is doing relatively better and the high-end market is low? Just some sense on where you are seeing the growth. Whatever.
Well, I would try to answer these indirectly to corroborate the figures because, we have a better margin, number one, compared to what we had earlier. We had almost a difference about 250 basis point on an EBITDA margin, which means that, okay, our realizations have improved. The realizations can improve only when we have a market share which is coming from a premiumized market. So this is the way we try to corroborate about this.
Okay. And sir, last question on faucet. So our capacity utilization is at about sub 60% levels, and the growth seems to have moderated. Is this, is this a one-off phenomenon for this quarter that we underperformed versus the industry? I mean, how should we look at the growth here? Because this has been the segment which has been growing fast for us, right?
You see, we were going faster on faucetware because it was on a low base. So in terms of the percentage or in terms of the absolute value, it was very easy for us to really achieve a growth of about 25%, 30% plus because of the low base. Now, we have not been able to do that because the entire market which has been subdued, and therefore we have been growing that moderately. Now, this is a phenomena which is market dependent, and a lot of market dynamics would come into the fray about that part. These in turn, has really put a pressure on utilization of the capacity.
Okay.
But as the market improves in a time to come, we are ready with the capacity, and therefore we can really capture the market needs as soon as, market shows a sign of an improvement.
Okay, so this is basically in line with the market, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We have the next question from the line of Siddharth Mohta of Principal India. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good morning, sir. Sir, two questions. First one is, what percentage of sales is coming from premium segment, whether it is in sanitaryware and in faucet?
You see, if I really give you the parameter of how the breakup of the product that it goes into it, we have been pretty strong on a mass market, which comes and comprises still about 40% of the business that we are. We are a value for money product primarily. Then, we had earlier about 22-23% coming from the upper and upper lower end of the market, which is above the mass market. And then, we had about a premiumization, which was about 12%. Now that sequence has been changing. A trend has been changing where we still remain, fairly strong as far as the market on a mass market is concerned is about 40%. We still command that share. But on an upper lower, we used to have about 23% has gone down to 20%, as against upper has gone to 25%.
Okay, sir.
Which used to be about 22-23%. So there's a shift between upper lower to an upper.
Okay, so from
which gives us a better realization also, and a premium market also has been steadily going up. But then when you go to a premiumization, you have a fierce competition even from the peers as well as from the global players. But we have been steady that part. If you take last 3 or 5 years, we had only about 3 or 4% share in a premium market, but now we have grown to at least about 14 to 15% on that part.
Okay, sir. So, sir, just to conclude, what I have understood that your premium segment, sir, it has improved to 25% of the total sanitaryware revenue.
Well, you could say so, yes.
Okay, and which was around like 20-21%.
Exactly.
And so this 20-21%, it was what, 1 year back or 2 year back, or how it is, sir?
It's about 2 years back.
And
steadily there has been an effort where, we have been able to command a better realizations, a better product mix, and it goes through the premiumization of the product.
So one can say, sir, that it is that there is no downward pressure in the premium segment, that market is still growing?
Well, it's not, growing as much as we would have liked that to grow. There is a pressure. We would have liked that to grow at 20%, which is not growing.
Correct, sir. And
which is remaining only about 12%. But that's where the market dynamics come into the fray. The industry itself is passing through where, as I said, in my earlier answer, there's a lot of excess inventory, and therefore, till that gets settled with the need-based users, the new projects are always subdued, which in turn affects our business as well.
Correct. And sir, in faucetware, sir, what percentage of revenue is coming from the premium product?
Faucetware, again, the trend is the same as I said, 40% to 50% is still the mass market. The premiumization is about 10 to 15% there.
Okay. So in terms of
and the mid-range, as we said, is about 35%.
Sorry, sir. What is 35%?
The mid-range, as I said, is about 35 to 38%.
Okay. Even in faucet also.
It's the same. The trend is more or less same there.
Right. And sir, my second question is, sir, what percentage of our total energy requirement is coming from this APM gas?
We have almost about 60% of the gas that we use comes from APM. 40% comes from the market price.
And any improvement from the APM supply? Earlier, our requirement, it was a little higher, but we were getting a little lower.
This is exactly why, we have almost, a sanctioned load which can take care of the entire production that we are manufacturing, or may still be surplus. But we do not get that kind of operation, and therefore we get only up to the 60% of the use. So therefore, we have to go for balance 40% to the market.
So when this capacity in sanitaryware, it will come from 3 to 3.3 million. So our purchase from the market, it will increase.
Obviously, it will increase because APM will not give us. The administrative price mechanism will not help us there because they don't have supplies.
Thank you, sir, and wishing you all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have the next question from the line of Varun Bansal of Power Bulls Capital Private Limited. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Varun.
Sir, actually, I have some confusion with the Anjani tiles structure. If I understand correctly, the structure of Anjani tiles and our JV with them, we first did a 51% JV with them and later on acquired 51% stake in Anjani Tiles Limited. So all in all, we have about 76% stake in the JV. Is this interpretation correct?
That's correct. No, we have only 51% stake. We have never acquired further there. From day
51% stake in Anjani Tiles and 51% stake in JV. Are these separate things or?
JV and Anjani are the one and the same. We have only one JV and that's with Anjani Tiles.
Okay. Our agreement with SVR, how is the brand doing, sir? And what is its contribution to top line and bottom line?
Anjani Tiles, basically whatever the material that they manufacture will be taken by Cera on a transfer price mechanism.
So, sir, SVR, our agreement with SVR I was talking about. How is the brand SVR doing?
You're talking, so SVR is, we are importing from Turkey. There is no JV with them. There is an arrangement.
Yes, sir. But how is the brand doing and what is the contribution to our top line and bottom line?
I would answer. Would you allow me to speak? Then I can answer one by one every question that you have.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. So SVR, we have an arrangement where you only have a distribution and we have a pre-agreed price on which we load our margins on this, which is about 40%, but the marketing expenditures we have to incur on that part. So we still have to come to a conclusion as to what exactly that we would be making on that part. But as of now, the contribution from SVR is very minimal. We hope that, it will pick up in a time to come because we need a position in a very premium end segment where we could compete a global brand. Currently, the share from the SVR in our total business is very minimal. But in a time to come, we hope that, it should go to as much as at least 10% of the business of the entire sanitary ware. But it may take at least about 2.5 years to 3 years by the time we come to that figure. Currently, it's not that phenomenal, which would be where I can really say, that's the kind of a margin that it contributes because we are only trying to cover our cost with the margin of 40% that we get from them. Okay. What are your next questions on SVR now? I'll answer that.
Sir, next question is on working capital cycle. I have noticed that working capital cycle has improved this half year. Sir, any specific reason for this and where do we see it after 3 years?
Working capital, we have been managing with an eagle's eye on that. We've been very, very vigilant on the debt collections, which is about 60 days.
Right,
and
it has improved right?
Very well, which is about 52 days.
Okay.
And this is an ongoing, continuous process. So there is no trend which probably would give us an improvement further on a thing down 3 years. This has been a trend more or less for last 3 years also, and that's the way we do it. Unless, there have been some market dynamics which really change the entire working capital cycle where you either end up with an excess inventory or an excess debt, which we would not allow that to happen because we've been very vigilant. To give an example, had we been little liberal about our debt policy and we had extended that to 90 days, the growth could have gone to 25%. But then, we were always fearing that, in an anxiety to grow, we may end up with the bad debts, which we never wanted to have, and neither we wanted to set a trend. So we were very happy. We were very happy with about 12.5% growth, but we want to manage our working capital in such a way where we don't end up into some kind of a thing where we have a bad debts.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you. We have the next question from the line of Akshat Gandhi of Aviva Life Insurance. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir.
Hi, Akshat.
Sir, one question. If I remember, you mentioned in your last con call that in sanitaryware, 20% of volumes and they contribute to 40% of revenues are outsourced. Is that right?
That's right, yes.
Right. So, is it fair to say that the 3 million capacity which we have in sanitaryware currently in-house, that contributes to currently 60% of revenues?
Almost you could say that, but yes.
Right. So, the question which I have is, if we are going to expand this capacity by 10%, okay, and let's say for namesake, if we have next year a 15% growth, would we have any kind of capacity constraint or we can manage that by expanding on the outsourcing side?
You see, we have been very cautious about these where we don't want to end up into building capacities where we remain unutilized.
Okay.
So generally as a policy, what we do is, we take the help of our outsourcing partners first. We create market, we stabilize our market, and then we put up and expand our own capacity so that we don't end up into a situation where we have unused capacities. Okay. Wherever we have expanded during last 7 years,
right,
this has been the policy of the company.
All right.
So we don't foresee that, even if, demand exceeds our capacity, we always will have an outsourcing. There is a lot of excess capacities available.
Okay.
In domestic as well as in international market like China.
Okay. Okay. Fair enough. And one more question. You, like you said, the demand has been slow in faucetware, but you are planning a capacity expansion in faucetware. And one of our key strengths has been 95% of our power consumption has been in-house. When that gives us a good advantage. So, do we need to expand any of our power capacities in line with these capacities?
Currently not. As we really go and use our capacities more than about 90% on a faucetware, or we further expand, because it is scalable at the same location from 7,200 pieces per day to 10,000 pieces per day. When we expand, then we probably will take a call that we need more power in-house generation on this.
Okay. And one last thing, you said that you were quite strong in tier 2, 3 and 4 cities, and metros is something which you were planning to focus more on. And for that, the Italian brand was the strategy. So any color on how those things are panning out, or too early to talk about it?
It's too early to talk about it. As I said, ISWA is one. In my previous questions I was trying to answer. That ISWA is one where, which is a global brand, and we would like to compete all the global players with ISWA. The question is, that market is probably more subdued compared to the mass market or the tier 2 or tier 3 towns.
Okay.
And therefore, that has not been, it's not the right time as of now to really talk much about. We still need to get at least about a year and a half down the line. Then we can really give a concluding or a conclusive comment on this.
All right, sir. Okay. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Thank you. We have the next question from the line of Sampath Sada of Kotak Securities. Please go ahead.
Hi, Bharat. Good morning.
Good morning, Samar. How are you? Good.
Pardon my voice. Unfortunately, I'm not doing well for a few days.
Don't worry. I can hear you.
Right. Sir, first is a query on after second quarter, festive season really started early autumn.
Samar, your voice is breaking. Are you on a speaker? I don't know.
Sir,
I'm not able to hear you.
Can you hear me now?
It's better, yes.
Yeah. So my first question was after the second quarter, have you seen dealers jack some inventory for the festive season? What trends for this quarter?
No, in fact, we have a different strategy. We are taking almost gearing up ourselves to take a price rise from November onwards.
Okay.
And therefore, we have given a choice to the dealer that, okay, if they want to really book an order, it is the right time for them to book an order during October at a price which is prevailing. If any order which is booked, after November, there will be price rise which will be applicable. We would like to take a price rise across the product with about 3 to 4.5%, depending upon territory and the product mix, which in turn has always given a good, encouraging response from the dealers who have been loyal to us for years. The trend would now only start, that's what we assume.
Fair enough, sir. Fair enough. The second question was on the sanitaryware capex. In your earlier comment, you mentioned you might, you have a 3 to 4 month window once you realize that the demand is picking up. Now, can we assume that this incremental 0.3 million pieces per year capacity would go online by first quarter of next year, or it is earlier, it is later?
But, we had originally gearing up to a situation where by March FY17 we wanted to be ready with it. But now it might spill over by about a quarter or maybe quarter and a half.
Fair enough. And on the tiles business, after we started manufacturing our own JV, we started manufacturing in the JV, has the outsourcing proportion come down in the south? What is the mix there?
The outsourcing proportion has definitely come down because, whatever that we are manufacturing and able to cater through our JV partner, Anjani Tiles, we are giving that as a preference, number one. But then outsourcing for the territories where we are not able to cater through Anjani with a distinct advantage on a freight, we continue to outsource from Morbi and cater those things to the northern and the western region.
Right. So
But generally the market has remained subdued, and therefore there is no major change in terms of the outsourcing volumes.
Right. So from a total tiles growth perspective, both manufactured as well as outsourcing, can we say the outsourcing revenue will remain strong over the next 2-3 quarters, and you'll ramp up in north and west region over the next 3 to 4 quarters?
Well, more or less it would remain in the same ratio of 50-50% as of now, it looks like.
Okay, fair enough. And my last question was on the accounting of this JV. Since we have already moved to Ind AS before schedule, the tiles business will show as profit below the net PAT item in the yearly results, right?
It will be as per the Ind AS directives only. We cannot change that part. So, it will be a standalone as well as the consolidated, both will come.
So are we showing any top line from the JV right now?
As of now, not.
Okay, great, sir. Thanks a lot for this, and all the best for the rest of the year.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We have the next question from the line of Pranav Mehta of Equirus Securities. Please go ahead.
Hello.
Yeah, Pranav, tell me.
Yeah,
good morning to you.
Good morning. Sir, just wanted to know how your marketing strategy is panning out in Eastern India.
We have taken up that as a special effort. We've been trying to really have more visibility in the Eastern India. We have opened up a new display center in Calcutta in about 12,000 square feet of an area.
Okay.
And we would like to cater the entire West Bengal from there. And we again have a plan to really go beyond West Bengal to the northeast states. In fact, northeastern states has given us a good business. We have almost about 5% to 6% business coming from those states.
Okay.
And if we really, narrow down our focus further in a time to come, that we look forward to these other good contributory business segments.
Right, sir. And sir, can you give some guidance on the FY18 numbers as well?
I'm precluded by SEBI to give any guidance on a futuristic, and therefore, we only would talk further on what we have achieved in Q2, and for FY17, what are the guidance has been given by our chairman on a public platform like a TV interviews. Anything I am not supposed to be doing.
Okay, sir. And sir, can you give some information on how the competition is playing out in faucetware and sanitaryware?
Well, competition, as far as faucet is concerned, Jaguar is still a market leader. We all candidly admit that part, and there is no doubt about this. But then, despite this, we have been growing moderately with about 12% on that part on a year-to-year basis or a Q-to-Q basis that way. albeit we would have liked that to grow to at least about 25%, which because of the subdued market we have not been able to do it, but that's the way the entire industry scenario is.
Okay.
Even the established players like Jaguar also has, according to market sources, so we do not have those figures because they are not listed as such. But then the market sources do say that, okay, their growth also is in the region of about 10 to 15%, nothing beyond that.
Okay. And sir, are you aware of any other international brand coming into India in faucetware or sanitaryware?
Well, generally, all global brands which come to India, they are always known to everybody, and we also are aware about that.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, sir.
There are a lot of people who've been trying to get into these, who also, we being in the industry and in the market, we know about them.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you. We have the next question from the line of Nikhil Upadhyay of Securities Invest. Please go ahead.
Hi. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Fine. Thank you, Nikhil. Tell me.
Sir, first question was on, as you mentioned, we are looking at taking a price increase. But if I look at our financials, we are getting a lot of benefit on the cost side. So what's the whole thought process behind taking price increase? Because some of the competitors, like in the tile space, had been saying that we are trying to pass on the increase, the benefit of gas to the end customer. So if you can just highlight what's your thought process, and is it this price increase for some specific products, or is it across the board?
You see, if I really say, let's take tiles off the business. Tiles has a lot of cost on an energy. If you compare sanitaryware, we have very minimal cost, let's say about 2.5%, 3% only on a gas cost. And power, if I put together, all put together is hardly about 4.5 to 5%, not exceeding 4.5% to be honest about that. The story is very different when you compare to the tiles. And therefore, tiles, people can always pass on that kind of an advantage that they have to the end users. But we do not have that kind of an advantage on a sanitaryware nor on a faucets. And there has been a lot of other cost push in terms of the internal overheads. There have been a lot of marketing expenditures on an increase. There have been general overheads going up with an inflation. There's been a wage rise of the contract labor also has been done, which we need to pass on to the eventual users and the market. And as long as we are able to do that, we should be doing that.
So basically my question was, if we look at our EBITDA margins this quarter and over the sequentially also for the last 2-3 quarters, we've been coming to that 17-18% range. So when you go by the dynamics of increasing the pricing and the cost increases, so what is the level of margins which you are comfortable with? Do you say that 17-18% is what?
No, margin would be the same, but currently the cost pressure that we have, which has to be compensated with the price rise. Otherwise, what would happen that if we absorb that cost pressure, the margin would come down.
No, that is there, but is the market ready for such a price increase in terms of?
We are pretty near to the market, and when we feel that the market can absorb that part, then only we'll do it.
Okay.
And we'll be very selective about that.
Okay, sir.
We are not the people who would lose a business in an anxiety to take a price rise.
Okay. Secondly,
it would be a very judicious call on management that, that's the right thing to do.
Okay. Secondly, sir, just a few questions back, we were discussing on the capacity expansion. And I think with this 10% increase, we would be touching, 3 million pieces capacity?
No, we already have 3 million. We'll be going to 3.3.
So, these would be small bottlenecks, debottlenecking of the plant which can increase our 10% capacity. So, to what extent do you think that we can take the plant capacity to a maximum range? Because I think when I had met you last 1 or 2 years back, we had mentioned that 3 million is what we would reach, and then we would have to look at a brownfield or a greenfield capex. So I'm just trying to understand, by these debottleneckings, what can be the maximum capacity?
Maximum is 3.3. We cannot go beyond that. And then, at the existing location.
Okay, and then we would have to go for brownfield, greenfield, or how?
Yes,
or would we
that's the way it would be. Yes, that's the way it would be.
So this major capex should come in what by FY18 we will have to go on the board for a capex plan.
We hope that the market should really improve upon by FY18, and therefore we'll have to really get ready once we are through with 3.3 capacity expansion, and then we'll bring that on a drawing board. And now the market is further. Till such time we'll be having an outsourcing partner who would be helping us.
Okay. And secondly, sir, in terms of our distribution, so as of now, how do you consider yourself or rate yourself in terms of what population cities we are there, and where do you see in the existing areas, 2 or 3 years back we had just entered South India and we were trying to cater to Tamil Nadu and Karnataka. So on those regions, are we good enough with what your plans were in terms of distribution so as to look at new region, or do you think there is still more space in order to increase the relevant distribution space for us? So if you can just highlight how are we placed in terms of the dealers and the stockists, and how do you see the roadmap over a 3 years period?
There's a lot of scope for improvement of the dealers network. We have a twofold strategies. We are intensifying further where we are anyway strong in terms of already our presence is there. We are intensifying further that part, going into the interiors also. And we are also trying to have a new set of dealers and distributors in the territories where we are not there.
Mm-hmm.
So this has been an ongoing process.
Okay. But in
and
terms
if I take, 3 years down before where we were probably discussing, we hardly had about 6,000 dealer distributors. Today we have about 15,000 dealer distributors, and the trend continues. In a time to come, we hope that we should be touching about 18 to 20,000 dealer distributors network in the next couple of years.
Okay. And this addition would be more of towards east or in the existing regions itself?
As I said, we'll be intensifying further. We have been intensifying further where we are anyway having presence.
Okay.
But then, where we do not have a presence, we are also trying to go.
Okay. And lastly, sir, what is the peak revenue contribution which Anjani can do for us, in terms of based on their...
It all would depend upon the product mix. If you go purely on a soluble salt, then it can do about 90 to 100 crores. But if you have a mix of GVT and a double charge, it can go to 125 plus.
Okay. And they have excess land?
And these further scalable at the same location 3.5 times. We have enough land there.
Okay. Thanks a lot, sir. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you. We have the next question from the line of Nirmal Bari of Samiksha Capital. Please go ahead.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for taking my question. Most of my questions have been answered. Just one small thing. On the faucet side, what proportion of the total sales are we outsourcing and what proportion is manufactured in-house?
He's almost 50-50.
Okay. And is there a plan to bring more of the manufacturing in-house to increase capacity utilization or nothing on?
We always would endeavor to do so. The only thing, wherever we have a cost constraints or we have an entry-level product that we have to go and push into the market, we have a fierce competition from the existing players like Jaguar and others. And therefore, maybe sometimes because of the taxis and the orders that we carry, we are not able to compete them at that price. And therefore, those kind of a product we outsource.
So
and we cannot bring them to our factory for manufacturing because then we would lose the cost advantage.
Yeah. So this 50-50 would be in volume terms, and in value terms, what would
it's the same thing. Volume and volume put together, I'm saying this.
Okay. Because we would be manufacturing high-value products in our factories, right?
You see, in a faucetware, it is very difficult to really give a category about a volume and a value put together. The reason being, we have a lot of internal parts which, again, we outsource.
Yeah.
The body that we might manufacture, but the internal parts we may be outsourcing, and therefore it would be very difficult to say whether that's completely outsourced or it is manufactured in-house. And therefore, we go with a combination which makes about sense in terms of giving a conclusion that is 50-50.
Okay. Thanks. That was the only question.
Thank you. Next question is from the line of Ashish Upkanlawar from Purnartha Invest. Please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Just had a look at the balance sheet. Wanted a clarification on why the loans and advances have doubled YOY. Is it the infusion into the subsidiary or something like that?
You see, we had till the money given to Anjani Tiles is converted into a preferential allotment in terms of our investments.
Okay.
These were share application money, and then they were lying there. And otherwise, the advances are also for the capex that we have a plan for.
Okay. And also the long-term provisions has gone up quite a bit. So any specific thing to share there, or is it normal?
There's nothing as such which is very specific about this, because if you see despite those provisions, our net profit has been on an increase, and which has increased by about 40%, 60%.
Yes. Okay. And sir, you're talking about premiumization as such. I mean, it's across the products that we sell. So what is the contribution that we generally get out of premiumization, maybe on an annualized basis as an addition to the top line?
You see, premiumization, when you talk about, is not only the realizations, but our margins also improve.
Correct.
And therefore, the focus is that, okay, how do we really, improve our margins further, which gives us a better return on our investments. Okay. And in other terms, if I say the return on equity also for the shareholders also would go up.
Sure.
So we always would try to see, okay, look, we have positioned our product in a certain way. Now, can we really upgrade our things further on that part? And by what percentage can we do that part? So there is a set matrix which goes with the help of the marketing advisors and the agencies which help us. That, okay, that's where these particular territories, the kind of an income standard that people have would really help us to promote further. We may have to intensify our the advertisements more visible there, and the complete trend is followed that way, which in turn helps us to really bring good business.
But is it possible to quantify out of maybe this 12-13%?
It would be very difficult. Even if you quantify, it would be very, very arbitrary on that part, because you can't really say, if I say, somebody would asking me, okay, Sonam Kapoor, when we hired, what kind of a business that she has helped us to increase? It's very difficult to quantify that part.
Okay.
So our marketing efforts that you put in, they collectively help us to really grow.
Okay. Sir, on the anti-dumping duty thing, I wanted to understand, if it doesn't, it's not reinstated again, how does it change the market dynamics, or it doesn't affect at all? I'm talking about the domestic players who would be impacted, and within that, sir.
Anti-dumping duty primarily is a concern for the tiles manufacturer.
Correct.
And tiles manufacturers were always trying to get a protection because of the cheap material which comes basically from China and other parts of the Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
They have a freight advantage also because in terms of the proximity from a Chinese harbor to Chennai also is very convenient to them and low cost.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore the price advantage that cost of production and the price advantage that China dealers that had or dealers who were dealing in Chinese material, they always had that kind of a price advantage for their own benefits and were promoting Chinese product more.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, the government representations was made to the government that, okay, this way the entire industry may get probably killed on that part. And the anti-dumping duty was given as $1.37 per square meter, which was about 18 rupees a square feet, which was a sizable amount of anti-dumping duty. But unfortunately, the commodity price also had reduced, which in turn also reduced the freight cost from China to Chennai. Therefore, the advantage that people had was not really realized by them. And this was temporarily because, you cannot really survive entire life based on protection. The industry is given protection for a time period by the time they are supposed to be developing their own strengths.
Okay.
And that's what I said and answered earlier also that, okay, we would not really depend on an anti-dumping duty as a business segment, but we would be developing our own strength in terms of the product category and the product that we come out with qualities, which can compete and can command a price or a position.
Okay. But sir, ideally, the time frame that was given, has the industry been able to develop those internal strengths as you're talking about? Because it would be a long-run process probably on those counts.
So it's a long-run process. It may further get extended, may not get extended. The government, there are a lot of diplomacies and diplomatic issues. Government will take a call based on which, and therefore it would be very difficult that, okay, only for this part they would be doing it. We would not know about this. We have to wait for that decision. Oh. Trade associations have made the representations to the government to again give them more time on this.
But how does the volume shift happen? Do you see a significant part of it to shift?
If you really see, the entire market is subdued as of now, so we do not know whether it is because of the Chinese product getting into it or if the market has not been able to absorb.
Okay, sure. And so finally, this capex that you are saying for the year FY17, how much it would be in total?
We should be about 100+ crore.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We have the next question from the line of Vaibhav Shah of ICICI Direct. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Sir, just wanted to seek your opinion on the anti-dumping duty. Though you have, discussed at depth, just a few more questions on the anti-dumping duty on the tiles business. That after 30th September, has the competition intensified, or are you trying to say because there has been significant fall in the commodity and hence they had a pricing advantage and that did not actually materialize earlier only, despite imposing the anti-dumping duty?
There are two ways you could look at it. The Indian manufacturers have a cost of production based sales price. And they, when they really have that kind of a cost of production based sales price, are not able to compete with Chinese product. China has a larger manufacturing base, has a lot of advantage of economy of a scale also. And, in any product where China comes, probably everybody, whether it's chemical or any other kind of an industry where China gets, there's always a threat about this. And tiles is no exception to that part. Sanitaryware, unfortunately, they could not do it because the large volume of the sanitaryware itself and the pilferage that one had or a breakage that one would have, the freight cost is not to an advantage to a Chinese suppliers unless they go for a premiumize the product. And we are pretty strong on a mass and the upper lower end of a product where China does not affect us on a sanitaryware. But tiles, there is nothing like that. And therefore, tiles manufacturers always have a worry about a China threat.
Okay. So, sir, now since the industry has now asked about the more anti-dumping duty than the 1.37, would that restrict the, if you could throw some light?
You need a time to really stabilize and really develop that strength. Eventually you cannot really exist based on a protection mechanism for a lifelong. Okay. You can't walk on a walking stick. You need to develop a strength on where you can walk on your own two legs.
Mm-hmm. But as I know, in the southern region, that Chinese competition continues to prevail?
Well, there is a competition, yes. And there are some kind of a thing where, people are ready to pay even half price to China also. Because there are certain kind of a product one with China is not acceptable also. China has dual kind of a thing. They have a good product and they have a very bad product also. So it depends upon what kind of a product category that end user, either a builder or an end user would like to go for.
Okay. And secondly, sir, with regards to our JV with Anjani Tiles, you mentioned about the transfer pricing mechanism. So, sir, just wanted to understand the mechanism here. Do we take the 100% commitment? Do we provide the 100% commitment to the JV? We would be off-taking the 100% of the quantity?
Yes, absolutely, yes.
And, sir, how the pricing mechanism work it out? We take the cost plus margin, or we get some bulk discount than the competitor prices?
No, it's an independent company where we have a 51% stake.
Mm-hmm.
So these also has their own economics of servicing the date that we have. But despite this, their cost is so low, whereby, even after providing those kind of provisions, we get a good price from them.
Okay. So, sir, can I say that had it been taken from the third outsourcing party, this tile business would have generated the lower margin and even on the standalone basis?
It depends on what kind of a product mix that one would be really going. If you are using Anjani tiles for a good product where you are able to command a good price, then the margin would be better. But if you only want to go for a commodity kind of a thing, tiles becomes a commodity once it is fixed. Nobody wants to bother. If you go for a cheaper product, then the margin would be low.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Thanks a lot, sir. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Next, we have Nehal Shah of ICICI Securities. Please go ahead.
Sir, thanks for the opportunity again.
Yeah, Nehal.
Yeah. Sir, just one question. Just would like to know your thoughts on the possible impact of GST on sanitaryware and faucets, both with respect to in-house manufactured products and the product outsourced in sanitaryware as well as faucets, assuming that GST is 20%.
You see, basically we have almost, on a faucet we have 50-50. We have outsourcing 50 and in-house is manufactured 50. Now, when you talk about the sanitaryware, we have a slightly different kind of an economics. There we have a larger volume manufactured by in-house manufacturing, but in terms of the value, it is about 60%.
Right.
The reason being, we have a premium product which we import from China.
Yeah.
And therefore, even with a lesser volume, it commands a much higher value. But domestic outsourcing is more or less the same kind of an impact that we have what we manufacture. Now, when you talk about a GST, these we'd have to really study and really find out what impact does it have on a sanitaryware. But we have to experience that part because, there is a duty, there is a custom duty, there's a countervailing duty also, and then again, is going to be a GST also. So what way it really comes and impacts us, we'll have to take a call on that part. This is one. Second, faucetware, we know since we are almost balanced 50-50, it does not make that big a difference about that part. But then we will get the entire input credit that we have for in-house manufacturing, as well as whenever we have that for outsourcing, which is basically a traded thing. We'll be getting, all the duty that we pay or a GST that we pay, we'll take an input credit on that part. So eventually GST is something which, we take a credit and only on the addition of the margin that we load on that part will be billing, and that will be what will be passing it on to somebody.
So basically it wouldn't be like a big differential between the two.
It does not look like, but we still have to experience that part. This is what a first-hand information that it gives. When GST comes into the fray, we'll have to really, after is being now at the Parliament session, and it'll be almost started now. So maybe in another one month, maybe we should be clear about this.
Right. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We have the last question from the line of Hardik Bora of Union KBC. Please go ahead.
Hi, thank you for this opportunity. The first question is on the strategy. Bharat, you spoke about this unsold inventory in the real estate. If it eases up, it will be a big growth driver. If and when that happens, how are you satisfied with Cera's positioning in terms of the dealer distribution reach of 18,000 target of the product portfolio that you currently have? And in terms of the brand positioning, are you satisfied with where we are to be able to capitalize on that opportunity? Or some work needs to be done in any of these areas?
You see, when you talk about building a brand, I would only take a comparison about what we were about 5 or 7 years back and what we are today. There is a remarkable difference in terms of acceptability, in terms of where we have positioned ourselves, and in terms of the visibility also. So there has been a lot of headway that we have made on that part, and we have been able to stabilize that also, which in turn would really help us when the market opens up. But then, sustaining a brand value and a perception is an ongoing process. And therefore, our efforts by the marketing department that how do we really sustain and further improvise our brand perception is being always carried out. And we feel fairly strong that, okay, yes, when the market opens up, the brand that and the distribution network that we have, we should be able to command and capture the market share that we have been used to getting it.
Okay. And what about in terms of the product portfolio? Do you think we have a extensive enough portfolio, or do you think you would want to make some more additions to what basket you're currently offering to the market?
No, we would like to remain, in a building material category within the bathroom, excepting the tiles which can go even outside the bathroom also and can be used in any part of the house, number one. We are slightly out of the bathroom in terms of a kitchen sink, which is made of a stainless steel, but we are outsourcing that part. We are not manufacturing that part. So there's a flexibility about demand and how to cater that kind of a demand. But whatever goes and fits into the bathroom, which essentially that we are into it, that's sort of, we always say we are a bathroom solution provider, and therefore our focus is on a sanitary ware, our focus is on a faucets, and now the focus has also been on a tiles. So as of for the foreseeable future of next 3 years, we feel that we are comfortable with the product portfolio. We'll take a call only after 3 years that, okay, do we need any other product to really support us?
Just a clarification on the distribution network. With 18,000 to 20,000 distributor dealers, would you say that you would have exhausted the breadth of pan-India presence, or would more addition need to be done to this number?
See, currently we are at about 15,000 and a half. What a figure I gave of 18,000 is that, okay, we in a foreseeable future of next 3 years, when we expand our capacities on a faucet as well as on sanitary ware, we would be going further on that part. Now the question is that, okay, you might have tomorrow 40,000, but do we have a capacity to cater to all those kind of dealers? Then the answer is no.
Okay. But in terms of capacity, you said there is excess capacity in the system, right? Which you can do some more outsourcing to meet the demand.
There are two ways you could look at it. You can always use outsourcing facility, but you can't build business and a brand only on an outsourced things.
Understood.
You need your own manufacturing.
Right. Understood.
So there has to be a balance between outsourcing as well as manufacturing.
Okay, understood. My final question is on this capacity part again. I want to understand this better. If the GST, implementation plays out over the next 2 years, we have about 50% of the current products being manufactured outside from third parties, right?
Yes.
My understanding would be these would be largely unorganized in nature. Could you correct me if I'm wrong?
Well, unorganized or maybe semi-organized, you could say. They do not have a brand, but they are adhering to the laws and the regulations. Okay. But their focus is more on manufacturing rather than, selling.
So
they don't have a pan-India distribution network nor a brand which is recognized, and therefore the focus is only on manufacturing, which we try to help them with our marketing supports.
Okay, what I was trying to understand is in case GST plays out and there is a curb on these unorganized players, could we see some of this excess capacity going down and hence us requiring to spend more than what we have envisaged on capacity?
You see, as a matter of fact, what happens, where we are outsourcing currently, they are not unorganized. That's what I clarified. They're semi-organized. They are always, adhering to the laws. They're also adhering to the normal environmental parameters. The question here is that, okay, they don't have an all-India marketing presence, nor the brand is known. And therefore, they said, okay, let's really join our strengths. We have a strong brand presence in a distribution network. They have a manufacturing capability, which with our own experience, we try to improvise them further. So there's a win-win situation we try to create between two of us. We do not go to the people who do not pay taxes. We do not go to the people who do a number two business. We do not go to the people who employ a child labor or do not observe the environmental issues.
Great.
So we do not have those kind of outsourcing partners anyway, even today also. So that does not affect us.
Understood. Okay, that answers my question. Thank you so much and all the best.
Thank you so much. Pleasure.
Bharat Bhai, Kamlesh here. Couple of points.
Yes.
You said the 100 crore capex, does it include the tiles investment as well into Anjani tiles?
We have already done that for the tiles, but we are more on a sanitary ware now because the capacity that we are trying to increase and raise from 3 to 3.3 would really take care of more of the capex.
And is it also including capex on faucets?
Yes, faucet also, because we are trying to modernize that part also further with a lot of robotic and automations that we are trying to do there, as well as in sanitary ware.
Okay, so this is primarily for sanitary ware and faucet.
Exactly. To strengthen the existing capacity further, where we become more competitive, more consistent in our quality. So and our dependence on unorganized labor that we have to employ at times reduces.
So it's not only just capacity expansion, but also upgradation of the existing facility.
Absolutely right.
Okay. Second thing, sir, what is the marketing spend budget we have for the year?
About 4.5% of the targeted turnover.
Okay. And sir, any color on the northern plant for the tiles as we may be looking at down the line? We already acquired some land.
We have acquired land in Rajasthan, but Rajasthan ceramic zone also the state government has to finalize their policies also, which may take another about 6 to 8 months.
Okay.
And after that, once we feel that, okay, now we are settling with Anjani tiles for the southern market and we need to cater the northern market, which currently we do with the help of our Morbi partners, we would shift that business here in the Rajasthan.
So maybe by end of the year?
Cater, the entire north and the Gujarat. Gujarat will continue to get from Morbi anyway.
Sure. So maybe by end of the year we'll have clarity on this?
We'll have a little more clarity on that part, but then I would still give at least, you need to wait for about a year down the line. By the next second quarter, we'll have more clarity on that.
Okay. And, sir, any color on the demand from affordable housing segment, how you see that is shaping up?
That demand has been on a rise. In fact, the mass market business that we have goes into that part, and that affordable housing also, when you talk about, is not that kind of a very low housing category where they need a Morbi kind of a material. But the affordable housing is about 20 lakhs to 30 lakhs category where our material can fit into it. Our low-end material can fit into that part. Mm-hmm. And that is a good business.
Okay. Great. So, thanks, Bharatbhai, for that very insightful discussion about the company's business and financial performance. So,
thank you so much.
With
Thanks to everybody.
We thank everyone for joining for this call. With that, we conclude the call. Thank you and have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you so much.